You have freestanding pull-up bars with a metal grip, with a foam grip, ones that you can easily adjust. You have very portable ones, and you even have ones that you can do push-ups on. We got 9 of them. Which one is the best? Let's find out. So when it comes to freestanding pull-up bars, what is nice is that you don't have to drill into your wall or ceiling, but because of that, quite often they are less stable than the other options. Exercises above the bar are usually very unstable. So for instance, straight bar dips or muscle ups or pullovers are usually not recommended. So what we find most important is that with a freestanding pull-up bar, you can do your basics like your pull-ups properly. Almost all of these bars are not meant to be left outside, but today we're testing them outside because then we have the space, and we're going to be comparing all of these 9 pull-up bars on the grip, on the stability, and on the exercise variety. So first up is the Gornation pull-up station, and this one has a grip which is made of black powder coated steel, and this kind of grip we're very used to, but it's not per se rough or smooth, it's somewhere in the middle. And it's a very nice grip. So the pull-up bar, it has 32 millimeters, which actually is very usual for pull-up bars. And also this one has a push-up bar, which is actually a thicker bar, which is 40 millimeters. And that is actually very nice for instance, when you do endurance and a lot of reps of push-ups, because it will be relieving your wrists. So for a freestanding pull-up bar, this one is actually very stable, and everything below the bar, those exercises are great, and everything above the bar is already relatively stable for a freestanding pull-up bar. But this pull-up bar is not meant for outdoor use, and indoors you would actually not have enough room to do any exercise above the bar. But with this bar you actually have an extra option, which is that you can put weights on the pins on the side of the pull-up bar, and we tested that out with 40 kilos, and then all of the exercises you want to do will become very stable. So on this bar you can do a lot of exercises. So of course you can do your pull-ups, your chin-ups, also you can do toe touches, you can do skin to cat, you can do your lever-based exercises. But for that it would be nice to put the bar lower, and actually with this bar you can do it, but it takes some effort to take out the screws, and we wouldn't do that on a regular basis. But if you put it there, also your straight bar dips will be very nice, and also you can do a muscle up with bent legs. Plus you have an attachment for your squat barbell if you have one, and on the lower bar you can do your push-ups, and also you can do an L-sit. So yeah, to be honest, this is what we expect from a good freestanding pull-up bar, and we're actually a big fan. So next up is the RaMaSS fitness bar, and this one has a very similar grip to the Gornation one, so it's a very nice grip, and it's also 32 millimeters in diameter. So with this bar you can easily adjust the height of it, and with freestanding pull-up bars you always have a wobble to the side, but with this one, because it wobbles in its sockets, when you have it on the highest setting, it definitely wobbles also a lot forward and backwards. But the lower you put it, the more stable it becomes. So when it comes to the exercises, when you are doing your pull-ups or your chin-ups, we do find it too unstable because of the forward and backwards wobble. And it's definitely not as nice as the Gornation pull-up bar. And if you put it lower, it does become very nice, because then you have enough space above you to do your straight bar dips and your muscle ups and also your pullovers. And if you put it all the way down, it even becomes super nice for doing your static exercises. One thing with the lower bars that are there for stability, on those actually you can't do push-ups because then your fingers will be touching the floor. So all in all, as a pull-up bar, we are not the biggest fan, but because of the adjustability, it does have its advantages. So when it comes to the Eric Flag pull-up bar, the grip is made of black powder coated steel, which is a nice grip, and also it has 32 millimeters in diameter, which is very nice. And actually the lower bar, which can also be used for push-ups, is actually 38 millimeters thick, so it's 2 millimeters less thick than the Gornation push-up bar, but it is still very nice. So again, with this one, everything below the bar is actually super stable, and everything above the bar, this one has a lot of sideways wobble, so we wouldn't recommend any exercise above the bar. And just like the Gornation bar, you can put weights on this one, but even if you do that, the sideways wobble isn't fixed, and we still wouldn't recommend those exercises. And besides that, also just like the RaMaSS bar, you can adjust the height of this one, and the lower you put it, the more stable it becomes. So with the Eric Flag pull-up bar, it is quite low, so with all the exercises where you're hanging, like your pull-ups or your chin-ups, you do have to bend your knees quite a bit. But still, you can also do your skin to cat and your toe touches, and actually everything above the bar we wouldn't recommend. But if you put the bar lower, then you can do your straight bar dips, you can also do some muscle ups, and you can also do some static work. And because the lower bar is actually bent, you still have space for your fingers when you are doing your push-ups. So even though the Gornation bar is much more stable and it is higher, I still like the Eric Flag bar because it is adjustable, and if you put it lower, you can do indoor muscle ups and some static work. So next up is the Barmania bar, and this one again has black powder coated steel, so it's similar grip to all of the other ones we discussed so far. And actually it is also 32 millimeters. So when it comes to the stability, the Barmania bar has the most sideways wobble we've seen so far. But below the bar, actually you don't notice it when you're doing your exercises, but when you're above the bar, you definitely feel it, and we wouldn't recommend it. But you could put the bar lower, but just like the Gornation bar, actually, it takes a lot of effort to take out the screws and put it lower. So if you want to make it more stable, you could, but we wouldn't, so we wouldn't do any exercise on the top. So again, there is a bar down there which you could do push-ups on theoretically, but just like the RaMaSS one, it is too close to the floor because you would be hitting your fingers on the floor when you're doing push-ups. However, this is the widest bar, and because of that, it is very nice to do wide pull-ups on it. And also it is a very high bar, so you don't have to bend your knees when you're doing your pull-ups or your chin-ups. And also you can do skin the cat or toe touches, and besides that, you can also do your lever-based exercises, and definitely if you do decide to put it lower. And then of course you would be able to do straight bar dips, muscle ups and pullovers. So yeah, the Barmania bar is nice and wide and nice and high, but it is a hassle to adjust it, and also it is a bit too unstable to beat its competitors. So next up is FitnessKit, and this one doesn't have the black powder coated steel as all the other ones that we've seen so far. It has a more smooth grip, and it really reminds me of the grip that you have in most calisthenics parks that I trained in. It is still a nice grip, but of course you can customize it with some chalk or some grip tape. So on this bar there are two bars, and the top bar is 34 millimeters in diameter, and the bottom bar actually is much thicker. It is 43 millimeters, which is very nice for push-ups. So with the building blocks we got, we wanted to optimize this bar for pull-ups and make it as high as possible. So it has a shorter bottom piece now, but with that it is still very stable, and all of the exercise below the bar are actually super nice. And even the exercise above the bar, the dips and the pullovers still feel quite stable, but the muscle up, it is still too explosive. But for that you could actually make it lower, and also you could make the bottom piece because of that longer, and that will make it more stable. And also if you start combining this one with other products, like for instance the static bar or dip bars, it will make it even more stable, and probably stable enough for muscle ups. And again, when it comes to the exercises, you can do all of your hanging exercise and your core exercise and your lever based exercises. And of course on the lower bar you can also do your push-ups and an L-sit, for instance. You could also hang the top bar lower, and then it will become nicer for your front lever and your back lever, but also maybe even nice for muscle ups. So basically, as a separate product, we are really a big fan of this one because it has a very nice grip. It is also a very stable bar, however you built it. And I don't think you should underestimate the customizability of this thing and the modular system it has. So if you're thinking of building your own home gym, then we definitely recommend this one. So next up is the cheapest option out of all of these bars, which is the Gravity Fitness pull-up rack. And this one has two different versions. So you have the basic one, which costs 135 euros, and then you have one with an extension, which costs 185 euros. The basic bar is quite low actually, and also very unstable. There's one nice option with that one. You can actually lay it down, and then it becomes much more stable for instance, doing your straight bar dips or your rows. But as we said, we focus on the pull-up when we buy a pull-up rack. And in this case, we would always invest the extra 50 euros to get the one with the extension, because that one is also much more stable and still the cheapest option. And when it comes to the grip, this one also isn't made of black powder coated steel, so it's more towards the FitnessKit grip. It is still smooth, but it is also still a nice grip, and you can always optimize it with some chalk or some grip tape. And besides that, it is a diameter of 38 millimeters, which is definitely on the thick side. So when it comes to the stability, this is quite a stable bar, and just like most of them, everything below the bar is very stable, but everything above the bar, we wouldn't recommend those exercises. And with this one you can also of course change the height, and it is relatively easy, but honestly we never do it because the only new option you have is like doing your normal dips, but that actually feels very unstable. And then you can also lay down the bar and you can do your rows and your straight bar dips, but actually you also get to do that with the extended version. So honestly, we would just leave it as it is and just do all our exercises on the extended version. And then you can do all your pulling exercises, but sometimes I do hit my feet on the lower bar on the bottom, but still I can do it with full range of motion and with straight legs. And besides that, with the extension kit, the only downside is that your wide pull-ups will be less wide. And other than that, you can do your core exercises and your lever-based exercises. And also with the extended version, you can lay it down and then you get to do your muscle ups, you get to do your straight bar dips, incline push-ups, and also your rows. And besides that, also your lever-based exercise will be nicer. So actually, it is not only the cheapest option, it also can do everything that the other bars can, plus more. As a basic pull-up bar, you don't even sacrifice anything for the lower price. So honestly, I think this is my new favorite. Next up is the Khanh Trinh bar, and this one is the only one with a triangular design and is also highly adjustable. So this bar is potentially the lowest and the highest pull-up bar that we've seen so far. And actually, if you want to change up the height, then potentially you need to take out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws on both sides, and for that you need tools. So honestly, we would never do it. We would just put it on a height that you want. So if you're very tall, it is very nice that you can put it very high. But for us now, we put it at this height because we want to do pull-ups inside. And also you could put it very low, but honestly, we would never do it because we want to do pull-ups. And when it comes to the grip, this one has two different kinds of grips. First of all is a quite smooth grip, which is 32 millimeters in diameter. And then you have the foam, which is 42 millimeters in diameter. But of course, since it's foam, if you squeeze it, it will be a little bit less than that. And actually, we are not a big fan of foam. Of course, for beginners, it might be comfortable, but as soon as you start doing proper pull-ups, the foam limits your grip strength potential, and then we think you should get used to a normal grip. So when it comes to the stability, this is actually the most stable bar we've seen so far when it comes to the forward and backward stability. And like the others, everything below the bar feels super nice, but even when you do a muscle up, the first part of the muscle up feels super stable. But when you get to the top, there is a sideways wobble, and exercise above the bar, like for instance your straight bar dips or your pullovers, we wouldn't recommend. So again, with this one, you do get to do your pulling exercises, your core exercises, and your lever-based exercises. And of course, you could put the bar lower, but as we said, it is quite a hassle. And yeah, the Gravity Fitness bar actually gives you the same options, but you just have to lay it down and then you're already ready to go. And also the Khanh Trinh bar has the foam, so we don't like it as much. So next up is the Fit Home Gym, and this one has a black powder coated steel grip and it has a 38 millimeter diameter. So this product is a all-in-one product, but actually because of that, everything is quite close together and it's also quite a low bar, so you do have to sacrifice some stuff. For instance, you can't actually get on top of the bar because there's actually a bar in the way, so you can't do muscle ups, pullovers or straight bar dips. And also this bar is kind of in the way when you are doing your toe touches, which makes them less comfortable, and you can't do any skin to cats. But for all the exercises that you can do, it is quite a stable bar. When you are doing your pull-ups, you do have to bend your knees though, and if you want to do any lever-based exercises, you can only do it on the lower bar, and there it is quite narrow, so this is not so nice. But honestly, the dips and also the push-ups are quite nice. So because this product is trying to do a lot of things at once, for pull-ups, it is actually not nice because it is too low and also it limits you in many ways. So it's not a bad product, but for this comparison, we wouldn't recommend it. So next up is the BullBar, and this one is definitely the most portable pull-up bar out of all of them. And of course, it has a foam grip, and again, we are not the biggest fan of this, but actually when it comes to the pull-up bar, this one has a 31 millimeter diameter and the layer of foam is quite thin, so we don't mind it as much. And the push or dip bars actually have a thicker layer of foam and it has a diameter of 38 millimeters. But of course, if you squeeze it, it will be a little bit less than that. And actually for the push exercises, we don't mind as much. And when it comes to the pull-up bar, because the layer of foam is so thin, we like it much better than the foam on the Khanh Trinh bar. So when it comes to the stability, again, on the top, don't do it, but everything below the bar is actually super nice, including the dip bars and the push-up bars. So when it comes to your hanging exercises, like your pull-ups, you do definitely need to bend your knees with this one. And also when you're, for instance, doing your toe touches, when you do your back levers, this is actually very nice, or any lever-based exercises. It's also nice that you have the option to do slanted wide pull-ups. Besides that, you don't have the option to do any exercise above the bar because it's definitely unstable. So we wouldn't do any straight bar dips or pullovers or muscle ups. And actually you also can't put the bar on different heights. So this is definitely not possible. Except for maybe the muscle up, you could try those on the dip bars, but then it's very close to the floor and it's also a very wide grip. but you can very nicely do your dips and all kinds of push-ups on them. So basically with this one you have a lot of options when it comes to the exercises, but you do sacrifice on the height, and we are personally not the biggest fan of the foam grip, but it is definitely the most transportable pull-up bar that we've seen. So if you're gonna make use out of that, we would definitely recommend it. So before we conclude, we found out that 94% of our viewers don't actually subscribe. So subscribe so that we can make more and better reviews for you with more and more partners. So in this comparison, we thought it was most important to check whether you could do your basic exercise like your pull-ups properly on these freestanding pull-up bars. And because of that, we didn't discuss any add-ons which would give you extra options. And actually, as a base freestanding pull-up bar, the clear winner here is the Gravity Fitness pull-up bar with the extension kit, because then it is high enough. Also, it has a very nice grip and it's super stable, and you can do all the exercises that we want to do on a freestanding pull-up bar. And besides that, you also can easily lay it down, and then you have the option to do muscle ups, straight bar dips, pullovers, and also rows. And on top of that, it is also by far the cheapest option. But when you buy the Gravity Fitness bar, then that's it, and you can't add any other options to it. Plus it can only handle 110 kilos, so there's not much room for weighted calisthenics. And then two bars stand out, which are the FitnessKit one and the Gornation one. And when it comes to the Gornation one, this one really leans towards the street lifting side of calisthenics, because you can use a barbell for your squats. Also, if you load it up with a lot of weight, it becomes insanely stable, and also it can handle 250 kilos. Plus you can add a dip bar extension, so if you want to do any of that, the Gornation is definitely your best option. And if you want a highly customizable freestanding pull-up bar, which you can combine with all kinds of products to create your own home gym in one piece of equipment, indoors or outdoors, then the best option is the FitnessKit bar because of its customizable and modular design. And if you're looking for a portable pull-up bar, then the clear winner here is the BullBar. So the prices of these four base products: the Gravity Fitness bar costs 185 euros, the Gornation bar costs 300 euros, the FitnessKit bar costs 550 euros, and the BullBar costs 333 euros. So all of these products we also reviewed separately, so check out those videos. And also on most products we have a discount code, which is CWW10 for 10% off. So click the links in the description or here, and then we'll see you in the next one. Have a good day.